Hello and welcome to a conversation about restorative yoga. I'm Lizzie Lasater, and joining us today is Judith Hanson Lasater. Hi, Mama.
Hi, Lizzie, and hi, everyone.
So, as we're entering the holiday season, I love to sit down with you for a few minutes, Mama, and hear about your philosophy towards restorative yoga, your personal relationship to rest after decades of yoga practice. And perhaps a good place to start is, do you think resting is a luxury?
Big fat no to that. Everything seems to be speeded up. And it seems in my life, and I know your life, you have 4,000 children. I'm sure it sometimes seems that way. The demands that we place on ourselves and our number of things that we want to do for our health and our diet and our families and our students and ourselves and our parents and our family obligation. I mean, we have simply overdone it. And if we are going to even remain healthy and sane in the world in which we live today, and the world is unique. There's always been turmoil and trouble and difficulties and illness and death and tornadoes and storms. But what's unique today is not only do we experience those occasionally in the world ourselves, but we experience as everyone else's tornadoes and floods and wars and uh, all of that sort of thing. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Because it's
Yeah.
in our face. And
Yeah.
so it doubles our tension and our distress because we hear about the suffering and difficulty all over the world.
Yeah. And it almost feels like the more I don't have time to practice Shavasana, the more desperately I need it. Do you experience that in your life too, Mom?
I'd like to say no, but I'm going to say truthfully yes. There's something odd about scheduling Shavasana. In a way, it doesn't, you know, I don't live this life where I arise at dawn and meditate, in the silence and the cool, fresh morning, and then naturally evolve into my practice. I sometimes wake up late. I sometimes wake up tired, or I wake up and my partner wants to sit and have a cup of coffee. I don't drink it, you'll be glad to know, but I drink tea. And it's more important in that moment to just sit with him for 30 or 40 minutes before I move into my day. He needs my attention and wants it. And I like giving it to him. So no is the answer. It's it's absolutely true that the people who need it the most actually are the busiest people I know who are yoga teachers.
Yeah. And as we redesigned our restorative yoga teacher training this year, one thing we've decided to do, we do this online training every March, and we're offering it for the seventh time this coming year in 2026. And we decided to redesign it as a year-long training because we felt like a month immersion was just simply not enough to implant this new habit into our students' lives. And as a remembering, I love doing this training every year because it re-enters my life. What do you think about that, Mom? What we need now in our culture, has it shifted?
Absolutely. Resting, I remember my grandfather was a farmer and a carpenter, and he used to come in at noontime for lunch. My grandmother was stay at home. All women pretty much were in those days of families. And she would prepare lunch. And for one thing, half of it or more would be out of the garden. They might have milk from the cow. I mean, it was really basic food and very fresh and very, what very organic because they just grew it in the backyard and pulled up the beets and washed them off and cooked them and ate them. But he would come in for lunch, and my mother would walk home from school for lunch. And can you imagine your family meeting at noon for lunch? And then he would go lie down in the corner by the fan because he lived in a hot place in Texas. And he'd take his cowboy hat and he'd pull it down over his bridge of his nose and cross his feet and lie there on the floor and say, I'm going to take me a little lie down. And he'd be there about 20 minutes. And then he'd get up and go back and work in the afternoon. And that was a rhythm that I don't think was too unusual in that period of time. It is, our whole society has shifted so much that's almost laughable.
Yeah. What does your practice look like these days, Mom? How are you bringing restorative yoga into your life?
The first thing, I walk in my yoga room, I stand there by my mat, and then I take a deliberate breath and exhale. And I think out loud in my brain to myself, I'm stepping into the space of practice. And the first thing I do is a restorative pose. It is lying over a bolster, which opens me up, literally opens my belly, opens my chest, my heart chakra. I'm horizontal. So I close my eyes and I just open up to the moment, to right now. And that leads me into the appropriate practice, which might just be a 40-minute Shavasana, or might be more active and then a shorter 20-minute Shavasana. And that might be later in the day. Like I'll have a session with you, I'll have lunch, I'll go upstairs, and then I'll lie down for 20 minutes before I do anything else. But I think that for me, it's important to listen to what's spontaneously arising with me in that moment. Am I interject? I ask the question by opening up over a bolster, which is a restorative, common restorative pose, and see if I can invite myself to be receptive to the moment, because that's a big part of what Shavasana does. It teaches our body what it feels like to be present, not doing anything, just being there, noticing the breath, noticing the sensations that arise, and taking a step back, creating a space from spinning mind.
Yeah. Because for so many of us, we know we need to rest, but it's almost as if we don't know how to rest. It's like we feel the exhaustion, the strain in the body, the noise in our minds, but rest somehow still feels out of reach.
I disagree with the word feels, with that verb, because I don't think that what's happening in that moment is a feeling. I think it is a thought, specifically a judgment along the lines of, I don't have time to take care of myself. I don't deserve to take care of myself. this is going to take too much time away from project X or project Y, the next thing I'm supposed to quote unquote be doing. This is something I can always do later, which we don't. This is not the biggest choice we have in every moment is where is our consciousness. And when we get caught up in this inner conversation, it springs from one of those things that I mentioned or something else. What about you? Like when you feel the resistance, it's do you notice that it's a thought if you really contemplate that?
Yeah. It's about laziness. Like lying here is lazy.
Or did
And
yeah,
I have to consciously choose. It's like the default is the busyness. It just happened this afternoon. We picked up the kids from kindergarten. We came home. It's raining. We wanted to have make them a cozy snack. And my wonderful partner, Nico, said he was going to make hot chocolate, which is so funny because it's like my 6-year-old twin boys, you can kind of still sell them anything. And so he was like, no, 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 mama's not going to make it. I'm going to make it the Papa way, it's like the Papa special way, which of course they loved. And like, his big secret is of the Papa special hot chocolate.
yes,
He made whipped cream. We put
yeah,
whipped cream on the top,
yeah.
but they were like blown away. So he's in the kitchen doing that. And there's a 10-minute window where I lay down on my couch and opened my brand new New Yorker magazine that came today and put my feet up and read half of an article and then closed my eyes for 5 minutes. And there was part of me that felt like, oh, I should go into the kitchen and like help him or like bustle around or like see if there's something I could be doing because it's almost uncomfortable for me to let myself be the one being served. Like I complain about quote unquote doing everything, but recently I've been getting more in touch with the ways in which I continue to create the situation where I'm doing everything.
You know, it really isn't the situation. It's our perception of the situation. I'll tell you a story. It's the antithesis of that. So years ago, I was driving to teach a yoga class, and I was speeding, and one of our fine officers of the law stopped me and asked me where I was going so fast. And I struggled for a moment with lying. I didn't want to give yoga a bad name. Finally, I decided always Satya, choose, tell the truth, tell the truth, tell the truth. And I looked at him and I said, I'm going to teach my yoga class. And he started laughing so hard. And he just gave me a warning and said, slow down. And I thought, the universe is now sent a policeman to tell me to slow down. It's getting pretty bad. Uh, and that was years and years ago. And the pressures that we perceive and believe that are on us all the time are leading us astray. We need to get a speeding ticket, quote unquote, from the cosmos.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine my life without restorative yoga because what I notice in myself and everyone around me is that we're increasingly losing contact with our own nervous systems. And it's like life is moving so quickly, and we all feel so depleted and overwhelmed or pulled in so many different directions. And I can't imagine how I would feel without this practice. That's why I'm so passionate about teaching this practice. What do you think that this has given you in your life, Mom? The practice of restorative yoga or the daily practice of Shavasana?
Well, first, I'd like to comment on what you said, and then I want you to ask me that question again. Um, I remember the feeling. in college, right after I took each semester my last final. And it was a feeling of relief, you know, but it was also a feeling of disorientation because my brain said, I don't have anything to study. I don't have a paper to write. I don't have a book to go to the library and look something up. I was sort of feeling for a bit at sixes and sevens. I not to have anything to do with the sixes and sevens that people say today, but I felt disoriented, like because I didn't have anything I had to do, and I think that's of something we're all feeding. It makes us feel that as though we have our life has meaning when we have something to do, and so we're getting further and further from. We don't even have front porches to sit on and watch the sunset, metaphorically or literally. That we believe time is going faster, but it's going the same speed. It's always gone. What is shifting is our interaction, our perception, our judgments about time. And it's always that there's not enough. It's a scarcity, it's a scarcity situation. And when people feel that there are important things that are scarce, like water or food or housing or whatever it is, that stimulates anxiety and even fear. So I think in a way, we're all acting out of a scarcity consciousness.
Absolutely. That's true for me. And I have wildly unrealistic expectations about what I should be able to accomplish in a day, for example. And it's especially potent at the holiday season where I sell myself the myth every single year of finishing everything. And I put an enormous amount of
Whatever.
pressure.
What is that? I'm interrupting you here. What in the heck does that mean? Finish everything.
I don't know. It's like it's
Right.
what I thought of when you were talking about the finals. It's like it's a longing that there will come a day when I will feel complete and I will feel as though I have done enough.
Maybe it's then when we die.
But I don't ever, then it's like I wake up on January 1st and it's like, oh, like my inbox is still full. Like there isn't, I'm longing for some moment. You know, when I was a kid and we would talk with other kids, like we would talk sometimes about if I could have a superpower, what would
Uh-huh.
my superpower? And the superpower I always wished that I could have was to be able to pause time. Like everyone else would be paused, but I could just do whatever I wanted. Like I could sleep, or I could do my homework and then unpause and go have fun. Like I wouldn't have to make choices about time in that way.
I
So,
was
but go ahead.
I was teaching a yoga class once, and I at that time I had a lot of students from the Zen Center in town, and I was sort of chatting before class started. People were coming in and unrolling their mats, and I said, I wish I could be in two places at once because I'd be teaching you and loving that, and at home writing an article that's due for Yoga Journal magazine that I haven't written yet. And from the back, one of my longtime Zen students said, the power that I would like is the ability to be in one place at one time. I
Okay,
wrote that
that's
down. I wrote that down many times.
Okay, that's the perfect segue to my question. Like, what do you think that the practice of restorative yoga and almost daily shavasana, which I know you do, what has that brought to you?
It's a touchstone for me. It's a touchstone. And I'll give you an example of that helps me in my daily life. So when I rest, 100% of the time, I'm glad I did it. And I can't say that is true for everything else. There's times when I go, why did I eat that? Or why did I say that? or why did I do that? But I never question it. It's it's its own answer. It doesn't even stimulate a question. Like I feel 100% of the time better. And I was right to make it very practical. This is a stage of my teaching where I really want the practice to not just help shape our lives, but become our lives. So we're practicing all the time. So I was a little late for my dental appointment, and I felt anxious in the car, and I realized it so fast. You're choosing to be anxious right now over something that, because there was a lot of road construction that I didn't expect, is you're feeling anxious about something you can't control. And I just said, why can't my mind just be like Shavasana mind now? Just happy, present in the moment. And it was a Christmas miracle. It was any kind of a miracle. My mind immediately shifted. I'm just right here, right now. And I thoroughly enjoyed driving there and looking out the window and seeing the blue sky and the Pacific Ocean. And it was sounds like a very small thing, but I tend to get very anxious when I'm late because of my upbringing. And I was able to just notice that so clearly and say, go to the back of your brain, go to the center of your heart, and live this present moment, which will never come again. And that
Yeah.
was a really deep victory for me in that specific situation. And that comes from practicing nothing, which has the name of Shavasana. It's the practicing of nothing. It's not doing, it's not achieving, it's just being the conscious container for the present moment is what we do in Shavasana. And that changes your life.
Yeah. I agree, and I think even the way you said that, I realized I'm choosing to be anxious.
Yes,
Like even that is a huge shift
it is.
to see it as a choice. So many of us, whether we're caretaking in our lives or we're teaching yoga, we're giving to others from a place that doesn't feel sustainable. That's what I notice. I mean, I have two 6-year-old boys and I'm a working mom. I notice that Shavasana or, the restorative practices in general are a really practical, I always talk about it as practical self-care. It's a really practical way that I can fill my own cup and where I draw a boundary around that time for this 20 minutes. I'm not serving anyone else because we know and something that I learned from Mary Richards, which really helps me draw that boundary, is that our nervous systems are so social and we co-regulate each other. So it's not selfish to take time to restore and rebalance my nervous system because when I return to the family, the children, my work, I'm going to come from a different place and they will be able to feel that.
Absolutely. You change the Shavasana will help you change the world, not just yourself. It's a gift you give yourself and the world at the same time.
Yeah, I love that. I was just speaking to someone who took your Relax and Renew training. Mom, I was on her podcast, The Funny Thing About Yoga, and she was saying that she loved not just learning the practices in the restorative training, the physical practices, but all of the interstitial things that you said between the poses, which changed her life. Like that phrase, Shavasana is a gift you give to yourself and the world at the same time is so bite-sized. You can take it with you. It's like a mantra that helps to shift all of what we've been talking about. What I'd love to know, if you're willing to talk about it a little bit, is how did restorative yoga come into your life?
Well, I want to share with you about my twin brother. So my twin brother passed on our 45th birthday, and that was very difficult for so many reasons. Never had a birthday. After that, I had to learn to have a birthday by myself. Of course, I lost someone who I was in the womb with, my brother, and I really wasn't emotionally capable of doing handstands and dropping backs. So I started doing supported Baddha Konasana. And it turned out that that was all I could do. And I'd sometimes go in my yoga space and do that for an hour, and that would be my practice because I was being held, I was open. You're opening the heart, opening the belly in that pose, but you're also being held at the same time. So it allowed me to have a time when I could. Sometimes I wanted to focus on the grief I felt, and sometimes I wanted a relief from the grief I felt, but it would give me that. And that then I decided, I called my friend who's a publisher. I said, I'd really like to write a book about restorative yoga. And she loved the idea. And that's where my first book, Relax and Renew, came from. It was written in 1993 and published in 1995. And I'm happy to say still people are buying it. Thank you all so much. Um, so it was, in a way, I think of that book as a gift. That's why it's dedicated to my brother. I think of it as a gift that he gave me to
Mm,
give to you.
yeah. And how many of us have that ungrieved grief inside of ourselves?
Everyone.
Yeah.
Grief is a big part of life. Loss is a big part of life.
Yeah, my kid started crying the other day because it was
I
such
need
a
you to
small
speak a
moment.
little more loudly, my sweet.
My kid started crying the other day. It was a small moment, but it was a really big moment. He was wearing a pair of sweatpants that he loves, and it had a big hole in the knee, and they're getting too small for him. And so I said to him, when you take off your clothes to take a shower tonight, just put these sweatpants in the trash. And he started crying. And he said, "But I love these sweatpants." And I said, "Yeah, like that's part of it. Like that's part of life. We have things that we love and then we let them go. And what's important is to enjoy them while we have them. And then at some point, it might be the end with us." And he's 6, so it was right on the line between he knew we were talking about sweatpants, but he could also sense we were talking about the bigger things. And it was a really beautiful moment. I got tears in my eyes because I could feel that he was also grappling with understanding the bigger losses in our lives.
I know. I'm not sure if yoga gives us lessons that we can bring to our life, or life gives us lessons that we bring to our yoga practice.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit as we close about our upcoming year-long restorative yoga teacher training. And please chime in with anything you want to add about it, Mom. What I consider the benefits of this training are is that you're going to learn a real embodied skill for downshifting your nervous system. There is, of course, theory about physiology included, but we're very practical and very practice oriented. So, what restorative yoga gives you is specific positions and clear support to regulate your nervous system, lower inflammation, all of the kind of concrete benefits of relaxation. And we're very targeted at teaching you those in the training. You're also going to build a way of living that feels clearer, steadier, more sustainable. So, this full year, we do an intense practice period together in March over Zoom, and then we meet once a month over the next 10 months. We take August off because I always say, we even need to rest from resting. So, we meet then throughout the rest of the year, and it lets the practice take root so that rest becomes a real lived experience, not an idea or not just something which so often happens with yoga teachers and this training is like they're attracted to learning how to teach restorative yoga because we want to get something to give to our students, but we don't necessarily realize in order to get it, it's going to have to move through our bodies, the filter of our own experience. And the approach we take in this training is to steep your own body, your own nervous system in the practices. That is the key to teaching the practices. And then the third benefit I would really say is that you learn to offer rest, whether you're teaching or we have a lot of serious students who take the training you and then end up sharing it just in their lives. But you learn to offer rest from a place of depth and not depletion. So when you reconnect with yourself, it's really from that connection that you're going to be able to guide others with clarity, confidence, and I would say like a genuine presence. What would you add to that, Mom? The benefits of doing a year-long training in restorative yoga?
Well, for one, you will learn how specifically to manipulate your own nervous system and someone else's. And sometimes people are surprised at the word manipulate, but we do manipulate our nervous system all day long. We start with drinking coffee, many of us, or we go for a walk, or we do yoga, or we stand on our head, or we take a hot shower or a cold shower, whatever it is, we eat this, we don't eat that. We're always manipulating our nervous system. And what restorative yoga does is recognize that we can consciously and not unconsciously, we can consciously manipulate our nervous system by the placement of the props is really important. And you'll learn all about that, how we directly affect the physiology and how many, probably hundreds of times, I have seen people when their head is just slightly tipped more, or their knees are just slightly bent more, or the blanket is just moved 3 inches the other way, and they just say, "Oh, that's it." The nervous system knows what it means to let go, and the restorative pose is the opportunity we choose to make that happen. And that's what we want to share with you, how to make do if you don't have quite as many props, but the importance of propping, the ability to see with more than just your eye the student in front of you, and to teach from a place of deep compassion and presence, which changes people's lives, not just their day.
Yeah, starting with our own, as
Of
you
course.
as you shared, as I've shared, absolutely. What I thought of as you were talking, Mom, is that the nervous system doesn't lie. And if we mistreat our nervous system, it it, it will be revealed in inflammation, in illness, in chronic pain. Like it's the nervous system is speaking to us, and we don't often slow down enough to listen or to address the root causes, which
Yeah.
one root cause of so many diseases is exhaustion and stress. I want to invite those of you listening to join us. We're going to limit the group this year. We want to have a deeper connection with the students. So I'll include the link below this audio. We're going to start together on March 5th, but if it fills before then, we'll close enrollment. Otherwise, for sure, enrollment will be closed on March 5th. And I really hope to see you in the training. Mom, final words as we say goodbye.
I think we forget sometimes the power of our practice, the power it has to reconnect us with ourselves, the power it has to change the way we choose to speak, carry our body, the way we come across energetically. Because really, the body to me is the unconscious mind. And when we have a communion with that and a respect of that, and we're aware of how shaping the body and the breath helps us heal ourselves and carries with it the potential for others to heal themselves, it suddenly becomes a privilege to study this work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mama. Namaste.
Namaste, Lizzie. Thank you.